Control is a heavy word, and it's not about manipulation or games. It's about influence, the quiet power of understanding what moves people, what drives them, and how psychology works in shaping desire, respect, and connection. When you understand these 6 psychological secrets, you're not forcing anyone's hand. You're creating an environment where she naturally gravitates towards you, trusts you, and respects you without resistance. The first secret is emotional composure. Most men don't realize how profoundly women are attuned to emotional states. If you're easily rattled, reactive, or desperate for her approval, she senses it instantly. Composure, remaining calm under pressure, steadying your emotions, signals strength. It tells her that no matter what storm arises, you are unshaken. That stability is magnetic. It creates a deep psychological safety that keeps her bound to you, not through force, but through the security you embody. The second secret is mystery. People underestimate how powerful it is not to lay all your cards on the table. Women are drawn to what they cannot fully read or predict. If you're endlessly available, oversharing, or constantly seeking her validation, she loses curiosity. But when you hold something back, when there's a part of you that she can't quite grasp, her mind fills with questions. Mystery isn't about dishonesty. It's about scarcity. It's about knowing when to speak and when to let silence hold its weight. The third secret is the principle of withdrawal. Nothing compels someone's attention like the sudden absence of it. Most men chase harder when they feel a woman slipping away. But the paradox is this: when you pull back strategically, you flip the dynamic. She begins to notice the void. The silence makes her wonder, makes her reach, makes her invest. Absence creates value, and a man who can step back without fear has already seized psychological control. The fourth secret is authority, not in the sense of dominance or cruelty, but in decisiveness. Women are deeply responsive to men who lead, who take initiative, who can shoulder responsibility without hesitation. Authority means you have a clear vision of where you're going and you invite her to join you. It's not about barking orders. It's about living with conviction. When she sees you act with purpose, she naturally falls into rhythm with your direction. The fifth secret is unpredictability. Human beings crave novelty, and women are no different. If you become routine, if she can predict your every move, she grows numb to your presence. But the man who introduces variety, who shifts between tenderness and challenge, who surprises her in small ways, who doesn't always respond in the exact way she expects, keeps her alert. That alertness keeps her invested, psychologically bound by the thrill of uncertainty. And finally, the sixth secret is self-sufficiency. Nothing dismantles attraction faster than a man who orbits around a woman's world. When you demonstrate that your identity is whole, that your life is full and meaningful without her, you control the frame. You're not clinging to her for purpose. Instead, she has to earn her place in your already complete life. That shift alone transforms the dynamic, because the person who needs less always holds more influence. Control then isn't about force. It's not about manipulation or cruelty. It's about understanding how psychology shapes desire and learning to embody the traits that compel respect, admiration, and attachment. Emotional composure, mystery, withdrawal, authority, unpredictability, and self-sufficiency. These are not tricks. They are ways of being. Adopt them, and you won't just capture her attention for a fleeting moment. You'll hold a power that makes her choose you again and again, not because she has to, but because she cannot help herself. When a woman looks at a man, she is not only seeing the physical, she is observing, often unconsciously, the subtleties of how he carries himself, how he responds when life doesn't go to plan, and whether he is easily shaken or unshakably calm. Emotional composure is one of the most powerful qualities a man can possess, and it is the first psychological key to influencing her in ways she may not even be able to articulate. The truth is that a woman's nervous system is highly attuned to the emotional climate of the man she is with. If you are restless, reactive, or unstable, she feels it instantly, and it corrodes her sense of security. But when you demonstrate calm, measured responses, even in moments of difficulty, she feels anchored, protected, and quietly drawn to you. Think of it like this. Imagine a storm raging outside. The winds are fierce. The rain lashes against the windows, and there is chaos everywhere. Now inside the home, there is a fire burning steadily in the hearth, warm and unwavering. That is the difference composure makes. A woman is naturally drawn to the man who is like that fire, steady, grounded, consistent in his presence, regardless of what the world throws his way. She does not feel compelled to test him when she knows his strength is not fragile, not easily toppled by the unexpected. Many men misunderstand what composure really is. They mistake it for indifference or emotional coldness. But composure is not about being unfeeling. It is about mastering your responses. It means you are able to feel emotions, anger, frustration, desire, excitement, without being enslaved by them. You choose how to act rather than allowing impulses or insecurities to dictate your behavior. This is where the true psychological power lies. A man who can remain calm when insulted, patient when tested, and grounded when faced with temptation communicates, without words, that he is in control of himself. And when you are in control of yourself, others naturally look to you as someone who can also handle them. From a woman's perspective, composure creates trust. Trust that you won't collapse under pressure. Trust that you won't lose your temper in petty ways. Trust that you can carry responsibility without burdening her with your instability. When she senses that trust, she relaxes around you. And in that relaxation, she becomes more open, more affectionate, more loyal. The opposite is equally true. When she senses volatility, when she never knows which version of you she's going to get, she withdraws, protecting herself from the unpredictability. That is why emotional composure is not simply an attractive trait. It is the foundation of influence. Consider the times when relationships spiral into chaos. It is rarely the external problem that destroys them. It is the inability of one or both partners to regulate their emotions in response to that problem. A man loses his temper, lashes out or sulks. A woman reacts by withdrawing, criticizing, or escalating. But a man with composure doesn't add fuel to the fire. Instead, he lowers the temperature. He remains calm enough to think clearly, to de-escalate, to reframe the situation. That is an extraordinary power. It keeps her invested because she knows she is safer with you than without you. Another layer of composure's the subtle message it sends about self-respect. When you are composed, you are signaling that you do not need to beg, plead, or perform for her approval. You are secure in who you are. If she tests you, you don't crumble. If she withdraws affection for a time, you don't panic. If she provokes you, you don't resort to anger or desperation. Instead, you hold your ground with quiet confidence. This makes her respect you far more than if you had tried to win her over with frantic energy or defensiveness. Respect, after all, is the root of lasting attraction. Without it, no amount of charm or affection can sustain her interest. There is also something deeply masculine about composure. Women instinctively admire men who can shoulder burdens with dignity. Life will never stop presenting difficulties, financial pressures, family obligations, career setbacks, moments of betrayal or loss. If she sees you unravel at every challenge, she feels not only disappointed but unprotected. If she sees you endure those same challenges with steadiness, she feels admiration. That admiration slowly turns into a deeper attachment because she knows she has found someone who can weather life's storms with her, someone whose presence makes her feel more secure in an uncertain world. Now, composure doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean you avoid conflict or never express what you feel. In fact, avoiding emotions entirely can make you appear detached or distant. True composure is about timing and control. You can be angry, but you express that anger in a way that is firm, not destructive. You can be hurt, but you communicate that pain without begging for sympathy. You can be passionate, but you channel that passion with direction rather than letting it explode in every direction. That balance makes you compelling. It tells her that you are not pretending to be unaffected. You are simply too disciplined to be ruled by fleeting moods. The irony is that when you cultivate emotional composure, you gain not only her respect, but also her vulnerability. Because she feels safe, she will reveal more of herself, depend more on your guidance, and lean into your stability. This is the quiet way composure creates influence. It does not demand control. It inspires her to give it. She will trust your lead, not because you forced it upon her, but because she knows you won't abuse it. So the first secret is deceptively simple. Master yourself. When you control your inner world, the outer world bends towards you. When you remain calm in chaos, she will gravitate toward you, almost unconsciously, because you provide the grounding she craves. Emotional composure is not just a skill to practice, it is a way of living that radiates strength, security, and irresistible influence. Mystery is one of the most misunderstood yet magnetic forces in the psychology of attraction. So many men mistakenly believe that winning a woman over requires laying out everything they are, confessing every thought, explaining every feeling, and constantly proving themselves. But in reality, that very openness often strips away the tension, the intrigue, and the sense of discovery that women naturally crave. Mystery isn't about playing childish games or deliberately confusing her. It is about maintaining a part of yourself that remains untouchable, something she cannot fully predict or possess. And that unclaimed space in your identity becomes the place where her imagination takes hold, pulling her closer without you ever needing to chase. From the beginning of time, humans have been fascinated by what they cannot completely understand. We are wired to lean into curiosity, to explore the unknown, to be captivated by puzzles that resist easy solutions. In relationships, this psychology is no different. When a woman feels she already knows everything about you, there is nothing left to wonder about, nothing to unravel. But when she senses that there is more to you, layers she hasn't yet peeled back, a depth she hasn't yet explored, she feels compelled to keep investing, to keep searching for that hidden essence. The mistake many men make is to confuse honesty with exposure. Of course, you should be honest, but honesty doesn't mean total transparency in every moment. You don't need to flood her with your entire history, every thought, or your constant availability. When you do that, you kill curiosity. You smother her imagination with so much information that she no longer feels the need to pursue you emotionally. Instead, what captures her is when you reveal yourself slowly, in fragments and moments that feel earned. She should feel like there are always new parts of you surfacing, not because you are withholding, but because you are deep enough that she could spend years learning you and still not reach the bottom. Think about how desire operates in any area of life. People are drawn to limited edition items, to art they cannot quite interpret, to stories that leave unanswered questions. The human mind loves scarcity and mystery because it demands attention. A man who embodies mystery is never taken for granted because she cannot assume she has him fully figured out. She is kept on her toes, alert to his presence, curious about what he will reveal next. That curiosity is intoxicating, and it keeps her hooked long after the first wave of infatuation fades. Mystery also shows up in the way you carry yourself. If you are always eager to explain your actions, defend your choices, or justify your worth, you are stripping away the very tension that makes you captivating. But if you live according to your own principles without always needing her approval, she naturally wonders what drives you. If you sometimes keep quiet instead of filling every silence, she wonders what you are thinking. If you leave a story unfinished, she leans in, waiting for the rest. Every unanswered question becomes a psychological hook, drawing her deeper into your orbit. There is another layer to this. Mystery creates contrast. When you are sometimes warm and expressive, and other times more reserved, to create a rhythm that she cannot fully predict. This unpredictability is not about being unreliable or cruel. It is about refusing to be static. People grow bored of predictability because it makes them feel they have conquered the experience. But a man who keeps her guessing, who reveals himself in layers, ensures that she never feels fully finished with him. And that unfinished feeling is what keeps her emotionally engaged. What many men don't realize is that Women love to imagine. They fill in gaps with stories in their heads. And when you give them space to do so, you become larger than life in their imagination. If you disappear for a while, she wonders what you are doing, who you are with, what occupies your thoughts. If you don't always answer questions directly, she spends time speculating about your motives. In doing so, she invests mental and emotional energy into you without you even needing to demand it. That is the true power of mystery. It makes her work for the answers, and in working for them, she values them more deeply. But mystery must be balanced with integrity. If you become mysterious in ways that breed distrust, lying, withholding important truths, playing manipulative games, you poison the very attraction you're trying to build. Mystery works best when it is rooted in authenticity. You are not hiding, you are simply choosing not to give everything away at once. You are allowing her to earn access to your deeper layers, and that makes every revelation more meaningful. When she realizes that you are not empty, but instead filled with richness she hasn't yet discovered, she feels excited, privileged even, to be one of the few who is allowed close enough to see more. Women respect men who are not an open book from the start. They value men who carry themselves with quiet confidence, who reveal themselves deliberately, not out of fear, but out of self-control. This is the essence of mystery. It is not about withholding for the sake of withholding, but about preserving your depth and making sure that intimacy unfolds gradually. She doesn't just want to know you, she wants to earn knowing you. And here lies the deeper truth. When you embody mystery, you are reminding her that you have a life outside of her, a mind filled with thoughts she may never fully access, and a soul too expansive to be pinned down in a single glance. You become not just a man she dates, but an adventure she embarks upon, never certain what tomorrow will reveal. That is what keeps her enchanted. That is what makes her chase you, long for you, and hold on to you. Mystery is not a mask you put on. It is the natural outcome of living with depth, self-possession, and restraint. It is the art of leaving just enough unsaid that she cannot stop coming back for more. Withdrawal is one of the most counterintuitive yet profoundly effective psychological tools in a man's arsenal. Most men, when they sense distance from a woman, do the exact opposite of what works. They chase harder, talk more, explain themselves endlessly, and try desperately to close the gap. In doing so, they smother the very desire they are attempting to rekindle. The secret lies in understanding the paradox. Stepping back is often the most powerful way to pull her forward. Strategic withdrawal is not about punishment or cold cruelty. It is about creating space, allowing her to feel your absence, and compelling her to invest again. Human beings are wired to notice what is taken away. We adapt quickly to what is always present, but we crave and value that which suddenly disappears. If you are constantly available, texting back, instantly, always initiating plans, showering her with attention, your presence becomes ordinary. She stops noticing it because it's guaranteed. But when you remove that constant presence, when you step back and let silence hang in the air, her mind begins to notice the void. The sudden absence stirs curiosity, then longing, and finally desire. She wonders where you've gone, why you're not reaching out, whether she still holds the same place in your life. That wondering is what drives her to pursue you, to restore the connection you've temporarily withdrawn. Withdrawal also resets the balance of power in many relationships. Men unconsciously hand over control by overinvesting, by making themselves too predictable, too eager. When you pull back, you remind her subtly but powerfully that your attention is valuable, that it must be earned, not assumed. You shift the dynamic from her being pursued relentlessly to her realizing she wants to pursue you. That psychological shift is where real influence takes root. Of course, this does not mean disappearing in a dramatic fashion, ghosting her, or cutting her off entirely. True strategic withdrawal is measured and intentional. It might mean responding less quickly, leaving space between interactions, or declining plans because you are prioritizing your own life. It might mean choosing silence in a moment of tension instead of escalating into argument. The point is not to play games, but to signal that your world does not revolve around her every action. You are reminding her that you are independent, that you can stand firmly on your own, and that her access to you is a privilege, not a given. What makes withdrawal so powerful is the psychological principle of contrast. When you are consistently attentive, your attention loses its impact. But when you occasionally step back, every return feels more potent. The moment you re-engage, it feels significant, like something she had to earn back. This rhythm of closeness and space creates a dynamic tension that keeps her emotionally invested. It prevents stagnation, and it ensures that she never fully takes you for granted. Another critical aspect is that withdrawal communicates strength. Weak men cannot tolerate distance. They panic at the first sign of space, fearing abandonment or rejection. Strong men, however, know that space works in their favor. They trust that their absence has value, and they are patient enough to let it work. That patience signals to a woman that you are not desperate, not reliant on her validation for your self-worth. It tells her that you have options, that you have a life, that you can walk away if necessary. Ironically, it is this willingness to walk away that often makes her chase harder, because it proves that you are not trapped in her orbit. Withdrawal also exposes her true feelings. When you step back, you see whether she notices, whether she reaches out, whether she invests. If she does, there is genuine interest. If she doesn't, then you have clarity. You are not wasting your energy on someone who is indifferent. Either way, withdrawal reveals the truth more quickly than endless pursuit ever could. But this tool must be used with wisdom. Too much withdrawal too frequently, and you risk appearing cold, detached, or uninterested. The art lies in timing and proportion. Step back when she takes you for granted, when she tests you unfairly, or when she begins to grow complacent. But when she invests, when she shows affection, when she meets you with effort, you reward that with your presence. This creates a cycle of reinforcement. She learns that the more she invests, the more she gets of you. The more she withdraws, the more you mirror that distance. That balance keeps the relationship healthy, with both partners continually engaged. At its core, strategic withdrawal is about self-respect. It says, without words, I will not overextend myself for someone who is not meeting me halfway. It preserves your dignity, your time, and your energy. It prevents you from being the man who chases endlessly, who exhausts himself proving his worth, who becomes invisible through overexposure. Instead, you become the man whose presence feels valuable, precisely because it is not guaranteed. And here is the deeper truth. Withdrawal is not about controlling her. It is about controlling yourself. It requires discipline to resist the urge to chase. It requires confidence to trust in your own value. It requires patience to let her feel the absence rather than rushing in to fill the silence. That self-control is what makes it so effective, because when she finally does reach back, when she finally invests again, it is not because you forced her, but because she chose to. So when you feel the instinct to chase harder, remember this: often the strongest move is to step back, create space, and let her feel the weight of your absence. In that space, desire grows, curiosity awakens, and respect deepens. Withdrawal, when done with intention, is not distance for its own sake. It is the art of letting her realize on her own just how much your presence matters.